What if the moon simply vanished one day? Not a giant asteroid, not a war with an alien race, but a sudden, inexplicable absence of the one thing that's been watching over humanity for millennia. How would we cope with such an event? And how long would our civilization survive without it? This is Unveiled, and today we're answering the extraordinary question, what happens if the moon suddenly disappeared? If the moon suddenly disappeared, first we'd need to get over the shock. This would affect people all around the world. It might not be the first thing you notice. You might have obligations, plans, things to do, but then your phone would buzz with news alerts, text messages from worried friends or family members. Something seems to be wrong. The moon is missing. And then you'd step outside, glance at the night sky, and realize they were right. The moon should be there, hanging in the darkness as it does every night. It's part of the natural order of things. And yet, now there's nothing. An infinite expanse of twinkling stars in its place, the familiar curve of the horizon undisturbed. It feels wrong, unsettling, like the beginning of a horror movie when you can sense something awful lurking just out of sight. And it is, because in the grand scheme of things, the implications of the moon's disappearance are dire. So we'd probably spend the evening checking on loved ones, sharing theories, looking to the skies for any sign of the moon's return. But by the time morning came, we'd begin to feel the impact of its continued absence. That's because even though the moon doesn't technically belong to us, it has become an integral part of the world as we know it. And while that might sound like a bold statement, it's entirely true. The moon influences life on Earth in ways we often forget, from the tides to our climate, our very survival. In fact, many scientists believe that the moon was a key factor in making life on Earth possible in the first place. So, let's just take a moment to consider what we mean by that. Let's start with the tide. For thousands of years, humans have looked to the moon to predict the rise and fall of the seas, which is hardly surprising. It makes sense that a celestial body so intrinsically tied to Earth would have some kind of gravitational pull. But the exact nature of that pull is complex, combining as it does the powers of both the moon and the sun. We don't need to fully understand it, however, because the effects are plain to see, literally all around us. Every year, the tides carry trillions of tons of water to and fro. They shape coastlines, they determine where plants and animals can live, and they drive one of the most important industries on Earth, fishing. Take away the moon, and those trillions of tons of water will still slosh around. But the tidal range, the difference between high tide and low tide, will diminish drastically. That means coastal ecosystems will effectively be cut off from the daily supply of fresh seawater. Mangrove forests and rocky shores, salt marshes and sandy beaches will die. Fish and shellfish will either drown or wash up on land. Birds and mammals will starve. Fisheries will collapse, and within weeks, millions of people will face famine. And it won't just be the coastal regions affected either. Rivers and estuaries further inland will also feel the consequences. Even the water that we drink could soon become undrinkable without the moon's stabilizing influence on the tides. Desalination plants rely on a delicate balance of fresh and salt water. Throw off that balance, and they could cease working altogether. Entire nations built around fishing and coastal industry would be devastated. And with them, the wider global economy would suffer too. Of course, there would be worse consequences to come. The moon also helps stabilize Earth's axial tilt, keeping our planet on its axis as it orbits the sun. Without the moon, Earth would wobble dangerously, sometimes as much as 60 degrees out of kilter. That would spell extreme and unpredictable weather on a global scale. Summers would be impossibly hot and winters bitterly cold. Extreme storms would rip across continents, flattening cities and destroying farmland. Food supplies would dwindle and international conflicts over resources would become commonplace. Humans would be forced to migrate, seeking refuge in the few remaining pockets of stability. It would be a slow decline into chaos, playing out over thousands of years as Earth's orbit became increasingly unstable, potentially flinging our planet toward the sun or hurtling it through the vast emptiness of outer space. For humans, though, there would be no escape. There wouldn't be enough time to flee to other planets or moons. We'd be trapped here, fighting for survival against the elements, clinging to the wreckage of our failed civilization. But let's assume for a moment that none of this happened. Let's imagine that the moon simply went missing without any immediate or long-term effects. It might feel liberating at first. Now that the moon is gone, the night sky looks different. The darkness is deeper, more profound. It's eerie. Streetlights seem harsh and uninviting. Shadows seem sharper. The glittering stars look brighter and closer, like they could almost touch you. But that might be about the only upside. Without the moon's gentle light, the world feels colder, harsher, less welcoming. The gentle illumination that once cast long shadows and defined twilight now absent, leaving instead an unnatural black hole in the sky. Many animals would be confused, disoriented, unable to navigate or hunt. Nocturnal predators would struggle to see their prey. Nocturnal prey would struggle to avoid their predators. The balance of the natural world would quickly tip into chaos. That would include our own species, too. Most of us have an internal biological clock that adjusts to the cycle of night and day. It's controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in our brain's hypothalamus region. This region regulates the timing of sleep and wakefulness, body temperature, metabolism, hormone release, and even digestion, all according to the 24-hour cycle of the sun. But it needs the moon's subtle glow to function properly. Its faint light is picked up by specialized photoreceptor cells in the retina, cells that are sensitive to minute changes in brightness. They send signals to the SCN, helping it fine-tune the body's internal clock. Without the moon, our circadian rhythms would slowly drift out of sync with the solar day, lengthening or shortening our natural sleep cycles by as much as 3 hours. It's hard to overstate the significance of this. Almost everything in our lives is geared toward a 24-hour day. Public services, working hours, school schedules, farming, travel, communication, they all depend on that tiny 1% of the moon's light. So as our sleep cycles changed, society as a whole would begin to fracture. People would wake in darkness and go to bed in darkness, perhaps with the stars as their only source of light. Some would find it easier to adapt than others. Some would be plagued by insomnia. Others would enter a state of perpetual drowsiness. Some would suffer heart attacks or strokes. Still others would be plunged into depression. Before long, hospitals would be overwhelmed. Staff shortages and equipment failures would spiral out of control. Planes would crash. Trains would derail. Cars would swerve off the road. Human civilization would grind to a shuddering halt. After a few months, maybe a couple of years, the effects of the moon's disappearance would start to fade, allowing life to adjust once more to a 24-hour solar day. But that would only be the beginning of another disaster, this time on a much grander scale. According to NASA, the moon formed about 4.5 billion years ago, not long after Earth did. It was the result of a colossal collision between a Mars-sized planet called Theia and our young planet. Debris from the impact was flung into the sky and over millions of years coalesced into the moon we know and love. Or maybe that's just what we've been told. Some experts dispute this, arguing that the moon is actually a captured asteroid. Either way, the point is that the moon has been with us for billions of years, give or take. And during that time, it has had a profound effect on our planet, smoothing out its surface and stabilizing its orbit. Without the moon, Earth would be unrecognizable. Entire mountain ranges would be lost beneath rising seas. Our oceans would be filled with gigantic waves reaching heights of over 100 feet. Continents would break apart and new ocean currents would form, dramatically reshaping the world map. Volcanoes would erupt and earthquakes would shake the planet. New craters would scar the landscape. Meteorites would smash through the atmosphere and strike the unprotected Earth. As conditions grew increasingly hostile, Earth would lose its ability to support complex life. Over millions of years it would cool and harden into a barren rock, lifeless and alone in a cold, uncaring universe. So let's be thankful the moon is still there, watching over us each night, reminding us that we're never truly on our own in this great cosmic expanse. Because while it may seem like just another pretty sight in the sky, in reality, it's the bedrock of our survival. Life on Earth would be impossible without it. Now, you need to watch. What if aliens stole the moon? Or have a look at what if the Earth stopped rotating?